Welcome to Mike's Retro Curiosities, where we explore the wonderful world of retro games. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. These are the Halo novelizations, or at least the first three. There would be a ton of these, and I believe that they're even still coming out today. But these were the big three that were very popular back in the day. They were released in between 2001 and 2003, so right in between the releases of Halo 1 and Halo 2. Right when kind of the series was at its peak as the sort of flagship title for the original Xbox. I actually read these books back in high school, as I imagine a lot of people did. These are my actual copies, and you can kind of see that the spines are somewhat worn because of how much I read them. So these three titles are Halo: The Fall of Reach, Halo: The Flood, and Halo First Strike. Back in the day, these books were very much kind of my gateway into the wider world of military science fiction, something I still enjoy occasionally even today. So first we'll start off with Halo: The Fall of Reach. This one was is very much considered to be kind of the best of the trilogy, if not one of the best in the series overall. It really did a lot to expand and flesh out the Halo universe. Sure, you had the story in the game, and if you read the manual, there was a bit more lore that you could glean. But this one really explained quite a lot that was missing from the game. Stuff like the nature and origins of the Human Covenant War, the Spartan 2 project, the origins of Master Chief, the various technology that they used, as well as the Fall of Reach itself, which had only really been alluded to previously. It also introduced a bunch of characters and concepts that would become mainstays throughout the series. Characters such as Dr. Halsey and stuff like that. It also did a lot to really help flesh out and humanize the characters of Captain Keyes and, of course, Master Chief. Without wishing to get into spoilers, this book more or less starts just before the Halo Covenant War, the Human Covenant War, and it ends just before the events of the first game. And it really does a great job of explaining a bunch of stuff, like why it is that humanity was losing so badly in this war. It's explained that essentially, while they're able to do fairly well on the ground, most of the major combat takes place in space, and space combat was kind of something that you really didn't see at all in the game, so it was really great to sort of have it explained and sort of shown in this book. You really got a sense of just how desperate the situation was and how badly outmatched the UNSC was, even with a bunch of Spartans running around. Now, there were a couple of adaptations of elements from this game. First off, this would get an animated adaptation. I wasn't a huge fan of it. First off, because it only really covered the first half of the events in the book, so you literally don't even have the Fall of Reach in the Fall of Reach animated movie. I also wasn't a huge fan of how they characterized Master Chief. I thought that they kind of messed up some of the details about him. Aside from that, of course, the Fall of Reach would be covered in video game form with the game Halo Reach. Now, as a result of this game, as well as some other stuff, they would end up sort of retconning certain elements of the original book. I do believe that this book is still technically canon, but some stuff has sort of been rewritten, like the fact that originally they had it where humans basically hadn't encountered anything beyond grunts and jackals before the Battle of Reach, which really did not make a whole lot of sense in the grand scheme of things. Still, honestly, it's a great book. I definitely recommend it to anyone who's a fan of the series. Even if you're not, if you're just a fan of good military sci-fi, I could definitely recommend this one. And it's definitely a great companion to the original game. Moving on, we next have Halo: The Flood. This one was handled by William C. Dietz. This one was a direct adaptation of the original Halo game. However, it is definitely by far the weakest entry in the trilogy, and overall it just wasn't very good. First off, while I haven't dove into their sort of expanded works or anything that they've written beyond this, I kind of got the sense that Eric Nyland is kind of generally a better writer than William C. Dietz. Another problem is that I kind of get the sense that William C. Dietz was either unable or really sort of uncomfortable with directly adapting a video game. Like, he's kind of married to the source material, and the problem is that the way that you tell a story in a video game is very different from how you would in a novel. So you end up with just kind of endless, repetitive battle scenes that aren't really that interesting. Honestly, the parts that follow Master Chief are honestly pretty boring, if I'm being honest, and they really don't have the same punch as they do in the game. Honestly, the best parts of this book by far are actually the parts where it kind of goes off script, if you will, where it has a couple of side plots following characters from the Covenant and another side plot that follows a group of ODSTs. And these are actually far more interesting than the main plot, but unfortunately, obviously, because it takes place during the game and they can't break continuity, these events, in the end, can't really matter at all. They kind of don't really amount to much. Overall, yeah, there's a reason why they never directly adapted another entry in the series. This one is honestly pretty skippable. You really don't need to read this one. Despite having a few interesting bits in it, it just isn't that great. But of course, Eric Nyland would return with Halo First Strike. This one wasn't quite as good as Halo The Fall of Reach, but I think it was still pretty solid. It basically bridges the gap between Halo 1 and Halo 2, and basically it explains how Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson made it from the destruction of Halo back to Earth. It manages to do a pretty decent job of further expanding the universe, as well as further humanizing Master Chief. But it's not really tremendously consequential. It is enjoyable. I would say I had a good time with it. But it definitely isn't as easy a recommend as The Fall of Reach is. But I would say that it was definitely still vastly better than The Flood, still. Those are the Halo novelizations. Let me know what you think about them in the comments. So that'll be it for today. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. This episode is sponsored by M&M Games, and I will see you guys next time.